Hey, hello, it's Martin. I'm going to talk through right now the process in Tascus for releasing sequences. So let's just talk about why you would want to do that. So if you have so you're working on a sequence for a product, it's in draft, you can edit the work instructions, you can change the order of steps, you can change the process basically. If you get to a point where you want to freeze that exactly as it is, hand it over to production. This is how this video is going to tell you how in Tascus you can freeze that sequence so it can't be changed and is non-editable anymore. So what we're going to go through in this video is the process that we have in Tascus for how to do that. If you need to export some PDFs so that people can review the sequence, I'll show you how to do that. Show you how to actually release a sequence, as in actually changing the flags that make it released. Show you what user permissions are needed to do that, and then finally, as well as sequences, we can release routings. So going to go through that as well. So starting off with the sequence releasing process, it's designed with two roles in mind. That there's an editor who can create and edit a sequence, can then do an export of it to some document that can be reviewed offline. When he's happy with that, the sequence can then get marked as ready for release, so that when it gets passed over to the reviewer, they can easily see the ones that are ready to be reviewed and are ready for release, and they can go on and release the sequence themselves. One person can have both of these permissions, but in this example, I'm going to presume it's two different roles who are doing that. Okay. So let's just dive into Tascus and work through that now. Okay, so I'm in Tascus now. I'm going to open up my sequence editor and load up a sequence. I'm just going to refresh. I've been doing a bunch of releasing at the moment, so this list wasn't properly populating. What you may just need to refresh the list of loaded sequences at some point while you're doing this. So I'll go down to this sequence here, the daily PM checks. I'm going to open that. So at the moment, I've just got a couple of checks in there, not much to it. If I wanted to export that for someone to review it online, I would just click up to File and Export to PDF. And this one shouldn't take too long. That will just export a PDF that I could share with someone. And that's done. After that's done, if I'm kind of okay with my drafts, what I then need to do as the editor is come up to here and tag that as ready for release. Save the sequence. That's now added this flag that something is ready for release. So that when I'm going to log in as someone else now. So I've got a username guy who's set up here. Oops, need to put his password in, and he's just set up just to review and release sequences. He can't edit. The thing that you'll see changes is this button, which is usually the sequence editor button. If you're an editor, changes to review sequences. If you click on that, it just brings up a table of the sequences that are ready for release. And in here, I've got the daily PM checks. So if Guy has reviewed it, he's happy with it, want to release it, you just click on the sequence and you press, sorry, I'm just going to change that. You click on, I'm just going to change that to all sequences. So I'm just going to click on that and just click release the sequence. It asks me if I'm really sure that I want to release it, that no further changes will be possible. I'm going to click OK. Just want to explain at that point what this is actually going to do is move it from a draft editable table to a non-editable table in the background. So there's no way of reverting a sequence back to editable from once it's been released. What you can do is take a copy. You can open it up in read-only mode, and you can save a new editable copy of it as a new revision, but I'm releasing revision 1 here. I won't be able to make any changes to revision 1 again. So I'll OK that. So that should be released now. The tag for that has changed to yes for released. And I'm just going to close that window. I'll log back in as Martin and I'll go to my sequence editor. I'll just need to refresh all the sequences again, and I'll change that so I can just see the released ones, and I'll do daily PM checks. So that says now that this sequence has been flagged as released, so it's just opening it in read-only mode. So I can't make any changes to it, but I can view it. I will be able to save a copy of it if I wanted to really make a new revision of that now. So that sequence is now released. That can't be changed. Okay. Just going to take a second now to explain the user permissions that people need to have to either edit or release a sequence. So it's within the settings and then users. You click on the person and on the permissions tab, and then down on editing, it's these ones that are important down here. So people can either have permissions to release a sequence or a routing. So those are the two flags that have to be. So if you want to release a sequence, you have to have release production sequences. If you want to release a routing, you have to apply that. So I'll just show you how to set that up in Tascus. Okay, so I'll just open my settings. I'll just show you how mine are set up. So I'll just double click on Martin. So you double click on the user, you go to the permissions, and then down to the editing tab down here. I've given myself all the permissions, so I can edit sequences, I can release sequences, and I can release routings. So you change those tabs, you give the permissions, and you press OK. What I have noticed is if you've just given yourself those permissions, you'll have to just do a restart of Tascus for those to get applied next time you want to release a sequence. But once that's done, one other thing to mention, once you've applied the release sequences tab, this button on the dashboard will just permanently change to review sequences. So if you want to edit a sequence, you would then have to go through the menu over here, sequence editor, or the edit station editor over here to get access to the sequence editor. Okay. One more thing I just want to mention, when you're in the sequence editor, if you want to, let's just have a look at draft sequences now, hey. Oh. Let's have a look at, let's just refresh that. Let's have a look at a draft sequence. All right, say I was working on this sequence now. I wanted to mark that as ready for release. So say now I want to do I've got the editing permission and I want to just go ahead and release this sequence because I'm happy with it. I just want to lock it. What I could do is just go up to the edit sequence revisions here. That gets you straight into the window where you can do the releasing. When I go into this window from here, rather than from the home screen button, it's showing all the sequences, but to show the ready for release, all I've got to do is tick this box over here to show only ready for release. And here it is, here's the op30 sequence that I saw before. Oh no, sorry, it was op25. That one hasn't been released yet, so I can just click release on it. Release, and that's now closed off. Okay. Let's talk about routings now. We have a very similar process for routings. So I previously just showed you how to release a sequence, so one set of work instructions for an operation. What you can also do is, for the routing, as in the manufacturing operation and what sequence runs, you can also do a release of that. It's actually a lock that can be reverted, but doing a release or a lock of it just means that an editor can't come along and change the sequence that runs for a manufacturing process. So similar thing, the editor creates a routing, flags it as ready for release. Someone then with reviewer permissions can take a look at it, review it, and they can then release a routing that means it can't be changed. Okay, so we'll just run through that in Tascus now. So click on the manufacturing routings tab. I'm going to bring one up. Okay, so I've got a routing here. I've got some sequences and operations. So what I'm going to, you do them one at a time. You do each operation and sequence one at a time. So I'm going to click on that assembly, which is linked to the assembly one sequence. I'm going to click on the ready for release and tick that as that, yes, this is ready to release. Okay, so that's ready to release. If I open up the screen where I review sequences, which is just that sequence revision editor, this time I'm going to go to release parts. I then should be able to go to the part number that I just loaded up, which is this one, L90C, and it was the one that was ready for release was that third one, the assembly, and with the assembly sequence next to it. So all I've got to do is just click on it and then hit the release button. That's now released. So the editor, then, if I was to load that up in the manufacturing routines, this is what the editor would see. That one is now grayed out and it says it's released, it can't be edited. So that's going to prevent someone coming in here and changing the sequence that runs for this operation. So that's how you lock out routings. Okay. So just to summarize what we covered there, Tascus has a process for the releasing of sequences and routings that lets you change them from editable to locked. To get previews, you can export your sequence to a PDF so you can share with the team for reviewing. There's then features to release a sequence that means it's permanently not editable. You need to apply permissions for the user who's going to edit the sequence and release the sequence, although a user can have both. And then finally, you can also release manufacturing routings as well as sequences to lock in for a manufacturing operation which sequence runs. Hope this was helpful. Hope this explains anything. If you have any questions following on from this, just reach out to support and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, thanks a lot.